Thank you, Julie. Welcome. So much for inviting us today.
Bonjour, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm happy to be spending a little bit of time with all of you. Thank you so much, Sarah, for making us a part of your yarn tour. It means a lot to us, and we're always grateful for whatever project people asked us to be a part of. So thank you.
Yeah, it was the perfect collaboration for our Canadian stop. So I'm assuming after we saw that twist up in the video, then you bring it in and the twist will fold it on itself, and then you pop the two ends together and it's in a skein.
Yes.
That just, I'm blown away. But I mean, it's faster than having to do it by hand, but it is still an extremely per skein process, right? Like
Yes.
there's no like making that go faster, or it's amazing.
And I think we yeah, I was actually talking about this. So today was like my interview day, because this morning, we're doing a show called Knit City. It's in Canada. There's going to be a stop in Montreal. We're doing that next week. I was on the radio this morning in Montreal talking about the show, and somebody was asking me, like the host was asking me, why I teach yarn dyeing classes. And so what you said about the skein, like the skein machine and how labor intensive it is. Sometimes people ask me, like, why do you teach classes? Isn't it kind of counterproductive? I don't think it is at all, because people get to see the work behind I don't mind sharing the knowledge. I'm happy to show people how to do it, but also I think you appreciate all the work that goes into it. So yeah, there's a lot of work. Yeah.
Well, so to introduce you to all of our groupies here today in the tour, could you just tell us a little bit about how you got into the business of dyeing yarn?
So both my grandmothers, my mother, many of my aunts also, they all crochet, knit, sew. So I've been crafty for most of my life. I started knitting when I was 4, so I've always knit. So when I was so I'm a curious person. I like to cook. I have way too many hobbies. I like to know how things are made. So it was the same thing with yarn, where at one point I was wondering, how is yarn made? And then when I learned about yarn dyeing and making your own yarn, the mill process, all of that, I wanted to dive in more, and I started looking into it. And as many this was 10 years ago. The business is 10 years old. I think many yarn dyers are going to tell you this, whereas like you dye yarn for yourself, you give some away to friends, then you start selling it a little bit, a store caught on to it, and then it kind of evolved into a business without me really thinking about it. But I'm really happy that this is what we do now, because we get to work a flexible schedule, and we get to do what we like, and service I was going to say, entice the creativity of all the stitchers out there, and I feel like our creativity is linked with yours and other people, so that's a great reward.
That's fantastic. Are you originally from the Quebec region?
Yes. So I was born in Montreal. I lived in Laval, if anybody has been there. It's like the island next to Montreal. My husband is from the suburb, about 2 hours out. Yes.
And tell us where your business is located currently.
Okay, so we've we moved here to Sherbrooke. The town is called Sherbrooke. It's about 2 hours from Montreal. Most of the time that we've had the business, we were actually in a smaller town right next to it called Coaticook, and that means Pine River in Wabanaki. So this is the place where we spent most of our time with the business. Yes.
So everybody always wants to know if you play any favorites, either with bases or certain colorways that you have in your collection. Can you tell us about anything that stands out as something that you go to over and over again?
Well, I want to say, the yarn that we have provided you for the yarn tour is one of my favorite. It's a newer one. I like to knit a lot with Nurtured, which is our woolen spun worsted. The one that you have is a worsted spun non-superwash. I really like how it takes up color, and I just like the stitch definition of it. And I like that it's worsted, so it goes fast for accessories, all of that. So that would be, I guess that would probably be my, the yarn that I would get to keep if for emergency.
Right. I call that my desert island. Yeah. If you had to have one thing only for the rest of your life, that would be it. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's beautiful and well-rounded. That actually brings up a question that we had from the groupies when we asked them if they had any specific questions. Some of our tour members aren't familiar with like breed specific yarns. And then this one in particular is Targhee and Rambouillet. So can you tell us a little bit about those and like what about those two blended together go so well to create this yarn?
Okay, so you know, the fibers are from the United States and the yarn is spun here in Canada. You know, Rambouillet, so Rambouillet is like French merino. It's you know, it's in the same family of sheep. Targhee is also a fine, so both of them are like what's considered like fine fibers when it comes to microns and, you know, softness of the yarn and all that. Why this blend works really well is so Targhee is a slightly longer
Staple?
fibers, staple. So it kind of wraps around the merino and just gives it more stability. And it's just that you know, I mean, you see it in Brooklyn tweed and other yarn bases, but it's not used as much because I mean most of the yarn is made out of merino. So you know, we're happy to bring in different breeds of yarn into the mix to help out all the, you know, all the fiber sources that we can, and just, you know, thinking about you know, farms and all of that. So
yeah, when knitting with this, you can tell that it's a very well-rounded yarn, and maybe that's that Targhee staple, you know, wrapping
that,
around.
yeah, that kind of comes into it. I would, yeah, that's how I envisioned it. I think this is how it works. Yeah.
So nice. Since you've been in business for 10 years now as a dyer, is there another question we had from groupies is, what are some of the biggest changes or trends that you've seen over that span of time since you got started? Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like things come and go, right? Right now, I guess one thing that I think is interesting in that, not because we have it in our yarn in our yarn line, but for example, last year we've put out a boucle yarn that proven to be super popular, and I think, you know, like sort of like novelty yarns are making a comeback. Same with variegated that we used to see, for example, when I started 10 years ago, that we kind of had moved away from. So yeah, I think it's, you know, different yarns for different projects or different effect. I think I don't see colors or yarns as a trend. I see them as like a tool for whatever, you know, piece of art that you want to create.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Fascinating. Was there any other tidbits or, you know, little bits of information that you'd like to share?
About life in general, or
You can say there's none. No, thank you.
no, this is, hold on. Always wear clean underwear when you go out the house, because you never know what's gonna happen. No, but no, when it comes to, I guess what I want to say is, you know, when it comes to yarn and I'll answer like washing this yarn. I just saw that, but I was going to say, you know, when it comes to creativity, you know, I was saying earlier, I teach yarn dyeing classes. With those classes, you know, they're like color theory classes, and I feel like people are like, sometimes they're like, oh, I'm not sure if I should put this color with whatever, and I'm not sure about my color palette for my project. And of course there's tricks that you can use, but what I mostly want to say is, you know, if there's a color that you like and you want to wear it, I don't think that, you know, whether somebody tells you that it's not your color or whatever, you shouldn't be wearing it. I think you should wear whatever you want. So there's that. So that's my big thing. Yes, and somebody was asking about washing this yarn. So it's a so it's not super wash, but it's worsted. So it's, you know, you can you're just gonna wash it by hand. You know, I also want to say, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, I'm afraid to felt it. So it's you know, it's movement with soap that creates the felting. So even if your water is hotter or, you know, if you're afraid to move it too much, I mean, it takes a lot of soap and it takes a lot of moving for it to felt. So I'm not saying be careless with it, but it's washed by hands. And you know, you take good care of it just as a regular sweater, and it's going to stay beautiful for a long time. When are you, I just saw another question.
Yes.
When do you decide what type of color? Yeah. So Nancy, I don't usually follow. So I, you know, I know that I said like boucle was making a comeback. It's not an exception. I mean, it was happening, and you know, we have been working on this for 2 years, but I was going to say that I don't necessarily go like for colors. I don't look at pen. I mean, I know some people doing that's great. I don't look at Pantone just because or at, you know, color trends or things like that, just because the colors that are like are often based in like nature or translating an emotion or a song title or something like that. So it's very personal. So I think like the colors that we have created throughout the years, they're all cohesive, and they're kind of following along a line that's very personal to us. So I don't really, there's no like, I don't sit and plan anything. It happens. Thank you so much. I just see Wendy saying you like our colorways. Thank you so much. Yeah, so there's that. And for yarns, the way that we bring in new yarns is I think about like the projects that I want to knit or crochet, weave. And I just think about what's missing, or if you know, a store tells us like, hey, we're looking for something. Do you have you thought of this or that? And that's it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that your choices come from you and not because from some outside
No.
source saying this is the
Yeah.
trend, because then it does create that kind of cohesive look because it's all organically created. That's the
Yes.
artist way, right?
And I think it's fine, you know, if somebody just wants to look at what colors are trendy at the moment and they want to cater to that, then I guess that becomes their you know, way of doing things. So that works too. It's just that for us, because I'm a gardener, because you know, my grandparents, you know, they all own farms and all of that, I'm just really close to nature. So that's where it comes. Yeah.
Do you have time to knit and crochet?
Yeah, I do. So I knit or crochet when I watch TV, when I'm in the car. I really like to knit, right? That's what I was doing. That's what got it all started. So yes, I still do. I'm a sweater knitter. I like to knit sweaters. Crochet, I like to do you know, blanket accessories. I also like when it comes to accessories, I always knit hats. That's what I like. And I like vanilla socks just to keep my hands busy. Yeah, that's mostly that. I like color work sweater. I think that's my thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your Sunday afternoon to come and talk to us today.
Well, that's a great way to spend it. I like seeing everybody smile. I'm just going to go through.
Isn't it nice?
Yeah, I'm just going through the gallery. Don't be offended if I don't name you, but hey, Janet, Cadence, thank you so much for having me. Sherry, Carrie, Phyllis.
Oh, you know, our groupies in their breakout groups, they talked about their favorite colorwork project, and someone wants to know if you have a favorite colorwork sweater.
Do I? Well, no, well, I would need to look. I mean, there's none that I've knit, you know, several times. Right now, so I'm going to tell you what I'm knitting now. I'm knitting The Storyteller by Jennifer Steingass. And before that, I just finished her drama. So these I really like. I was going to say, you know what I'm going to do is maybe like if you take if you keep an eye on my stories in the coming days, maybe on social media, what I'll do is I'll share my favorite color work pattern.
That's
I
great.
see Lee Germain that's nodding. Hey, great. All right, Brianna. So yeah, so I'll make a list of my favorite. Yeah.
That's great. That's perfect. Awesome.
I'm just gonna say I saw somebody from Chicago. I saw it in a comment earlier. The last name was Poirier, and I was just curious because Poirier is a very Québécois name. So Who is this person? Hey, Lynette, tell me the story behind that. Where does that come from?
I married it. It actually comes from Belgium.
Oh, really? Okay. So like, of course, that's the same with Quebec, like probably from the French, you know, because it means like pear tree. That's what it
Right.
means. So,
Right. Yep.
yeah. Oh, well, nice to meet you.
Thank you. You too. I love your yarn. Your
Thank you so much. I'm so
Yeah.
happy we get to talk. Maybe one day we do the yarn tour in person and you all come to the Chateau Frontenac, right?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Wendy Philippe, you say your maiden name is Cormier. That's nice. So is that from Quebec as well?
No, actually, my grandfather was from New Brunswick and he was Acadian.
Oh
they
yeah, well,
said-
you know what I'm gonna tell you is, you know, we say that I'm from Quebec, but my dad, you know, my grandma, her last name is Como, and Como is actually Acadian from, you know, from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, like a Micmacky last name. So that's we come from the same place.
Many French Canadians came that way and they settled, I think, in the late 1600s. And a lot of Cormiers were actually thrown out of Canada. So in our country, most of the Cormiers are actually in Louisiana.
Yeah, same with the Como, you know, because with they call that, what's it called in English? Well, the Acadians, you know, they were all driven out.
Yeah.
And some of them went to Louisiana, and then the others kind of flew by foot in the forest, and they kind of hid for a little bit. So this is where I come from, and then they kind of came down to a city called Trois-Rivières, which is about 2 hours away from Montreal. So yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Nice
So
to
somebody
meet a
says
fellow
bagels and cheese
Canadian.
in Montreal. Love that.
Oh, well, my dad was fluent in French, but my mom was Irish, so I only un peu.
Well, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
That's nice. All right.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and
Thank you so much.
we'll be sure to check out your stories and watch for some fun colorwork stuff.
Yes, and one thing I just noticed is Judith Tumajian, I like your background with all the tulips. I like to garden, so that's nice. I like it. Thank you so much. So
All right.
be well, and thank you so much for having me. I like seeing all of your knits in the background, the stuff that you're knitting. So one day we get to meet in person for sure.
That would be fantastic. All right. Take care.
Bye.